Okay, let's get started. So, what are we going to paint today? These beautiful spring radishes. And I know they're so colorful that you just want to eat them right away. But first, we're going to see how we can paint them realistically so they look real on a 2D plane on a piece of paper. As you can see that the four radishes here. And how would you approach this painting? Well, the first thing I always say, all my students or everyone, is that observe the photograph. What do you see? Don't think what it could be, but what do you really see? You see four radishes, and we call them shapes instead of calling radishes. And you can see that they're slightly different than each other. Some are more oval, some are smaller, some are bigger, right? Some are more red, some have more uh, dark edges here. And you can see all these four shapes are slightly different from the other. If you see this one has more red tones here. This one has a lot of shadow areas here, really dark shadows. And that's what makes them unique. And you can see that they also have some highlighted areas here, which makes them look three-dimensional, which means the light is falling here. The light is hitting right here, and here it's darker where the shadows are. Obviously, there's less light or no light. You can also see some really soft shadows here, really soft. They're not too dark. They're not very crisp and sharp, really soft shadows. Then you can see all the stems here. And again, I like to imagine them as just lines. Okay, they're just shapes instead of calling them stems. And again, you can see that they're a little different than each other. This is more on the lighter side. These have more darker shadows. And that's what we're going to make it, keep them very interesting here. Okay, so when we approach them, we're going to approach them one at a time so that they look slightly different. And we might come back and forth just to adjust them slightly so that they look different. Also, for the shadows, if you see, they look so dark, almost like black, but they're not black. Remember, photos can be deceiving because the way they have been printed. And this here, it is definitely deceiving. So this is not going to be black. We're going to mix colors so then they look vibrant and colorful instead of looking very dull and muddy. Same with the shadows here. Okay, so let's get started with the painting, and I'll show you one or two techniques of what I'm going to do here. I'm definitely going to approach a technique called wet on wet, which I'll show. So firstly, this is wet on dry. The paper is dry, and I'm going to just put some wet paint on it. Okay, the second technique is wet on wet. So I'm going to just take some clean water, wet it, and take some paint and put it on the uh, wet area to give it really soft edges. You can see the edges are so hard here. Here the edges are so soft. I could also take another paint and add it here. This way I can mix them together right on the paper instead of the palette. So these are one of the two techniques that we're going to use. Other than that, I want you to understand that when I say lighter value, it means light paint. It means less paint and more water. So this is one value, almost like a tea consistency. Then I take some little more darker paint, and then this is more like the coffee consistency. Little more paint and less water. This is more like the tea consistency. I'm sorry, the milk consistency. Then, so tea, coffee, milk. And cream. So you can see it's really dark here. Hardly any water. So these are the things we're going to follow for today's painting. So let's get started and mix our colors. The first thing I think we're going to approach from top down here. It's just easy to paint because once you put a lot of paint here, you won't be able to reach here. So we're going to start with the greens here and then come towards the reds. I'm going to take some yellows. Really light yellow. And just give a slight tinge of yellow under painting here. Really light. And this may be very, very light here. But I really want it light because of the contrast that I want to create here. I can also take a little bit of green here. I already had this green, but you can mix your own green by combining yellow and blue. And even add a little bit of yellow here because ultimately I'm going to add some greens. So it's a good idea to get some underpaintings here. Okay. Excuse me. Now I'm going to start mixing a little bit of darker greens here and start to add more layers here. Okay. So I already have this green. I'm going to take a little more of blue here, mix it. Okay. Again, still keeping the consistency between milk and tea because I want it really light. And wherever I see a little bit of dark, I can add, I'm going to add there. Slowly, layer by layer, we're going to add depth to this painting. And as you can see, I'm adding more greens here. Try to work in a single direction instead of going back and forth so that you don't get a lot of edges, dry edges that you're not going to like it later. So try to keep it as smooth in direction as possible. Then same, maybe a little more darker. And I know you'll have to go back and forth and probably readjust some of the greens and yellows here, because yellow dries really light. So you might have to go back and add some later and make it pop up slightly. And that's okay. It's just how they dry. I'm just going to mix a little more and yeah, add these layers here. A little darker on this side. Okay. See, look, as we are moving from left to right, these layers start drying, which is what exactly we want. Next, we're going to add a little more of this blue and make it darker. Okay. So a little more. Make it darker. I might have to get another green or blue to make it more darker, because this is the max I'm able to do it with these two colors. So maybe a little more. But you can see that how it's already started to pop some of those greens. Okay. I'm going to take another green, so that green or blue, so that I can add a little more layer into this. Um, Yeah, I'm going to just take another set of blue to mix it up. It's slightly darker. Oh, okay, so this is really, really dark, but I need to tone it down slightly because it's too saturated. So maybe a little bit of brown in it. I just added a tinge of brown. You can see the color completely changed. Okay, now I can add a little bit of more darks here. Okay, and same here. Add a little bit of those darks here. And just follow the shape what you see. Some of the darks here. If you see, we have a little bit of brown here. I'm going to take a little bit of brown and move it here a little bit near the stems, because the stems are slightly dirty sometimes, and that's what. Oh, that's too much. Sorry. And okay, just of that brown slightly on these edges, on the tips, I would say. Okay, I think we got a good amount of greens here, and I'm going to stop right now so that we don't overwork this area. And then we're going to come back again and do some shadows and some tweaking, right? Because this is definitely not done yet. Now let's move on to the radishes here, or the oval or circle shapes. Let's start with this one. Okay, I'm just going to start, make it easy going from left to right so that you have a good amount of space to actually work your area. This is a bit much. I'm just removing some color here. It went too much. Okay. So what colors are we going to use? We are going to use some beautiful reds here. Like this is like the Windsor red, and some really almost like the pink reds that we have, like the rose. Okay, so I'm going to work this wet on wet. I'm going to first set this area with some clean water. It's not clean anymore because I've used a lot of paint here, but that's okay. I'm going to wet it nicely. Remember, we're working wet on wet, wet paper, wet paint. So it's wet now. Now I'm going to take some of this coral or the Winsor red and put a nice layer of this color. I'm going to try to keep a little bit of small hollow here so that we can have that highlight here, hitting of the light. I took some red again and moving again. While it's still wet, I'm going to take this rose, a little bit of more milky, creamy consistency. And this dark layer here. Also, because this is working, we are going wet on wet. There's another thing we need to do. We need to add these dark areas here, which we can. I'm going to take some blue, mix it with some rose, almost like a purple mix, but not too much on the blue side, more on the rose side. And we could take a nice thick, almost like a milky to creamy, mostly milky, sorry, creamy consistency. And add some here. I'm going to keep it very much in the corners, on the edges. You can take a little bit of blue directly and add some darks here. Okay, so we are done with this part. Okay, and some of the browns in the corners here, the stems. Okay, so that's done. I'll give you guys a minute to catch up and then we'll move on to the second one. Okay, the same concept again. We're going to keep it similar. Here I'm going to do, I think, more of corals, less of only in the middle. I'm going to do the rose and the blue mix. So again, wet your paper with water. Takes a good amount of time to wet this paper very well, because if there's not enough water, the paint will not flow, and then you'll get some hard streaks. Okay. So here we go again. And maybe just for the change, to make them all look different, we can keep this lighter. That way they all look a little different than each other. I'm going to take that pink. Or the rose, you can say. And then I can take that blue, mix with the rose. While this is wet, take the opportunity and just add it on on these layers. I can take slightly the blue directly. Keep adding. Take a thick layer of this paint. And add it. I just want to let you know one thing. When we do this technique of wet on wet, if we don't have good paints and good paper, like they're not cotton or 100% absorbing, then you may not get this effect very well, because the bad papers don't let you don't let the paints mingle with each other on the surface of paper. So if you don't have good quality paper, if you have the very the Canson ones, they may not come out as good as you can see this on camera right now. Because what I'm using is really good quality paper. It is Fabriano, 100% cotton, and it's cold press. And the way the paint and the water mixes on the surface is amazing. So don't be discouraged if you're not able to paint the way I am going to paint, because of also the materials and also the practice that you need to master this technique. So if you try a couple of times, you can do this, but don't be discouraged. Okay, I'll give you guys a minute to catch up. And look, you can already see they've started to look different, right? They do look different. I'm just going to add a little bit of red because, again, you see how light they become as soon as you let them dry? Oh, whole difference. Look at the difference here. Okay. Next, same concept. I'm going to leave a little bit of highlight here in the middle. Okay. To show that light was hitting there. Same concept. I'm going to wet this area. Be very careful when you're painting in this area. Actually, let's wait, because this area is getting into the other radish. So let's do this one, because this is quite wet now and I'm going to just mess it up. So let's do this one. Excuse me. I'm sorry. I think my allergies are getting bad, but okay, wet it very well. Same concept. Here, I don't think there's much light here, so I'm not going to keep any uh, highlight areas. Okay, we mix it with a little bit of blue. A little bit of, I need to take the darker blue a little bit because I need. Okay, the other blue that I used was the Prussian blue. So it's really dark. I'm going to mix it with the rose here, and you can see the strength here. It's so dark, it's so good. And now you can see that shadow was not black. That shadow is actually purple, you can say, but definitely not black. And they're so colorful right now. Add a little bit of yellow on the end, the brown. Yeah. Okay. Wow, you can see how different they all look, right? It's so different. Okay. I'll give you a minute to catch up and then go next one. While this is wet, I'm just going to add another thick layer here. Yeah. Next, we can go here. Same concept, wetting it very well, keeping some highlight in between. So just remember when you're painting in watercolors, your water is the medium. If there is no water in that area, the paint will not flow. It will stop right there. So the water gives the control, other than your brush strokes. Same thing. I'm going to do nice Windsor red here. I'm going to take a little different approach and do some rose on the top. I'm going to take my brush and allow some of the paint to wipe off. Clean brush. That's good. Blue and rose mixed. Okay. So looks like we are done with the 4 um, radishes, but we still have work to do. We are not done yet. And we have to create shadows now so that it looks real. Otherwise, they will not. I just need a little bit of red here. It became so dull so quickly, as if there was not enough paint here at all. I'm just going to add. See, this is the tweaking part. We add more color because become dull so quickly. Okay. Next, we're going to do the shadows, but I'll give you guys a minute of break. We'll go with the shadows on top. Okay. And then come the shadows down. And I know I created a very nice background because I thought this kind of painting really needed like a very soft background. So in a minute, we'll do the shadows and then the background. If you have a hair dryer, you can quickly dry this off. You can see already, even without the shadows, this thing has started to look so realistic, right? Because we really kept in mind the values, which is the lightness or darkness of something, and the shapes. Okay, you mess up with the shapes, it's not going to look good. At least with nature, it's not that bad. You can still change the shape of the leaves a little bit, change the shape, of this radish a little bit, and it will not um be drastically different. But when it comes to buildings, right? Your lines are so important. It has to be straight. That's why not a lot of people draw or paint architecture because it is difficult and you cannot mess it up. The building will look crooked otherwise. So I think that's one reason I feel people prefer a lot of flowers and just nature because you can mess up a tree and it's okay, but messing up a building, I don't think so. I think people will catch that off very quickly that it doesn't look straight, right? So I think uh, it's an advantage painting nature. All right, let's start with the shadows. I'm going to start the shadow here first because later we want to do the background, and I want this to dry off. So I'm going to take this purpley mixture of with some blue, sorry, with some red, mix it, and a little bit of blue in it, and just soften this area. Here I'm going to really wet this area. Again, add this bluish purple mix. A little purple on the top, but as I come down, I'm going to make it a little red. Be very careful not to disturb your shapes here because they're going to start bleeding into each other and then they'll create a hot mess and the shape will be lost. Right? So be careful about that. We got the shadow here, we got the shadow here. We need the shadows for the greens. So how would you do shadow for the greens? I'm going to take a bit of brown here and mix it with these greens. Basically, you're just looking for a dull looking green in the shadow. You're not looking for blacks, right? And whatever is the object next to the shadow, that light will be reflected. So maybe a little bit of blue. Okay. Same thing here. I take a bit of brown. Okay. Green here. I think it was lost. Same with these greens. I'm going to create some shadow here. And a tiny bit of blue to darken it. Okay. Lastly, because I told you that the yellows dry so light, I'm going to take a little bit of yellow. Mix it with a tinge of blue, just so little that it looks barely like green. Almost like a greenish yellow mixture. I'm going to add this everywhere in small quantities so that it just pop up. This will make a huge difference in your paintings in the end. You want those yellow to pop up, not look dull, right? Because warm colors really pop up. But definitely add that layer. Okay, you can see that the yellows have started to brighten up the painting. Okay. Now, you have left last with some really exciting background. And I just felt that there needs to be some movement in the painting. And I thought it would be nice to make it look like the colors are just bleeding down, right? So that's why I created this whole movement here. If you see the picture on the library website, like the color is just bleeding. You can make any background if you like. And I would suggest that you keep some of the colors cohesive using some of the colors from the what you already have it here. Okay. So how would you do the background? For background, I'm going to use this big brush because I want some movement in direction, right? So that's why I see your brush's size and your brush's shape matter, right? If I want something pointy looking, I take this round brush and you see what's coming out, right? But if I want something in large quantities, you see what this brush does, right? So this is very important when you plan your paintings, okay? And I'm just going to make sure that some of these colors are wet, so that when I'm ready, they're ready to be picked up. Okay. And I'm going to just apply some of the paints. I completely forgot that, I wanted to tilt this painting and show it to you, something like this. Like I would tilt it so that the paint would run down, but my setup is completely glued to the table now. I cannot move it. But if you like, I'll show you what I'm planning to do. Let's say I put some water here and then some paint. And you can see that if I move the paper, it will start to flow down. Gravity, right? It'll start to come down. And my purpose was to use a spray bottle and let it run down. Do you see that? How it's running down? You see that? How it's running down? So this was the purpose, but I completely forgot that my setup is glued to the desk, which is okay. But let's create it without moving the painting upside down or just moving it just up and down. So just I'm going to take all this water and I'm going to use the corner of the brush, and you can take any color basically, just let it move. I'm just going to take all the greens and the yellows, and the point is to just let everything mingle on the paper. Okay, I'm going to get some spaces in between so that it gives some variety. You see, this was wet, the color started bleeding, which is okay. I mean, it just definitely gives a new kind of effect here. And I am okay with this kind of effect, but sometimes this is not your intention. So in that case, you have to be really, really careful that what you're looking for. Okay. Now you can see how these colors are just bleeding into each other. I think it has come out very beautifully. And you can see that this background really gives that effect or really complements this painting. There is so much going on here. There's so much softness here. There's so much of mingling of colors, just like spring. And I think it almost looks like, yeah, the Easter eggs that you see, right? All those beautiful colors flowing in. So I hope you learned a lot from this workshop. And if you have anything else on your mind that you want me to paint or want me to teach to paint, I would be really happy. And please, please, please send me your paintings anytime. Even if you paint it after 6 months, I'll try to give you a feedback. I'll give you a written feedback, what to improve on and how you can make it better. And also, if you need any list of materials, then let me know, right? So that'll be really great. So I think today's class is almost done. And thank you so much, everyone, for joining.